Let's now take a look at how we can add a particular item or a product to the user's cart. So we're not going to be implementing user authentication or anything like that. We will just be doing a guest checkout flow. For a very basic example, what we're going to do is store the product items that the user add to their cart to a session. And it's just the session will contain the whole array, and we're going to keep even the array very simple, such that we will have the keys as product IDs and the values as the quantity. So if the user adds the black shirt 5 times and the ID of the product is 2, this will just add a key of 2 with a value of 2. So if a user adds black shirt twice to the cart, it will add product ID 2 as key, and first value it will add 2 because the user has added the product twice. So basically, yeah, that's we're gonna keep the structure of the session array very, very simple. So in order to do that, what we can do is, first of all, when the user clicks this button, we will submit a form to a specific route. And so we need to set up that route right now. Let's go ahead and define a route called /cart. This will be a post. So you can post any item to the cart, and this will be a cart controller and store method. So you can, let's name it cart.store. We will create this controller and import it. Then let's go ahead and define the store method. And in order to store it, first of all, we need the product ID. So let's validate the request. And we'll say product ID is required, and also the product needs to exist. So we can add this validation rule, exists in the products table. We're looking for ID. Okay. So now let's define a cart variable, and this will get the cart key from session, and if by default it will be an empty array. So if the cart key doesn't exist, it will just assume an empty array and store it into the cart. So it will just return an empty array if the cart key doesn't exist. And then we can check if the product is already in the cart. And to do that, we can say if is set cart request product ID. So as I explained earlier, we will be storing the product ID in the key of that cart array that is stored in the session. And so we can just check if this product already exists. So if the product already exists, we don't need to add the product. We can just increase it. So basically we can just increase its quantity. Otherwise, so if the cart doesn't exist at all, So if the product doesn't exist at all in the cart, we can define it. Okay. So now we will make sure to update the cart. So this will essentially take that cart variable that we had after updating it, and it will refresh it or update it. And then we can just redirect to for now, let's just redirect back. What we can do is basically set up a cart page. And so each time the user adds something to the cart, we will take them to the cart page where they can see all the products they've already added as well. Okay, so now how can we link this store method to this add to bag button here? So for that, let's go to product blade PHP, and we can see that here add to bag is a form. So in the action method, we can just use the root for cart.store. So cart.store method will be post, which is right, and we also need to include the CSRF field, and also we need to add the product ID field. So we can just add a hidden input field and name it product ID. And for the value, we can grab the dynamic value of the product ID. So now, whenever this form is submitted, it will send a post request to cart.store with the product ID. Okay, and when this store method is hit, it will validate that the product ID is in the request, and also it exists in the products table. Then it will grab the current cart. If the product doesn't exist, so if the product exists, it will append or it will basically increment its quantity, or if it doesn't exist at all, it will initialize it to 1. And then we just redirect back. Okay, so let's test it out. We'll add to bag, and it redirected back, which means either the validation failed or it added to the session successfully. So to test this, what we will do is go to the roads file, and we can add a cart get method, and that will hit the same cart controller, but the index method, and let's name it cart.index. Cart controller, let's set up the index method. Okay, so for the index method, for now, let's just die and dump the, let's grab the session get cart variable or an empty array. So now if we go to /cart, you can see that the product 2 has been added once, which is nice. So add to cart button is now working. At least it's storing the quantity of the product that they've added to the session, in the session. Okay, so we can go and add it again, and then go to the cart page, and it will now say 2, which is nice. So this cart link in the layout file, if you go to the layout blade, is already linked to /cart, which is nice. Okay. So what I want to do now is basically display a cart page where they can see the same information but in tabular form. So in order to do that, uh, let's do the same thing and grab the cart, and then let's define a variable called cart products, and we will fetch all the IDs by grabbing the keys from the cart variable. So basically, all the keys will be the all product IDs that the user have already added, and then we can just get all of them. And so so once we have all the products, let me import this class. So once we have all the products that are in the item, we can now define a cart items variable, and what this will be is it will be a map, because we need all the attributes of a product to display it in a table, but also we need the quantity and the subtotal. So the subtotal will be the price of the product times the quantity that the user has added. Okay. So we grab the product and use the cart variable, which is up here, to grab the specific quantities. Okay, so we just defined 2 new keys for each product. This will be the cart product ID. So this will grab the product quantity specifically, because each key in the session's product ID, each key in the session for cart variable represents the product ID. And we will grab the, let's call it subtotal, and this will be the product ID times product, and then we will return product. Finally, we also need the total price, so we can say cart item, and we can run the sum method on any elegant collection, and specifically the subtotal value. And then we can return a new view called cart, and we can pass in the necessary things. So we need the cart items, and we also need the total. Okay, but this view doesn't exist yet, so let's create it. Cart.blade.php, and we definitely need to use the same layout. So for the cart page, we will do the exact same thing and paste some static HTML. And let's see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. There's an image and the title and standard. This is just something that I had in the template. This doesn't matter. And the quantity of the product, and in front of it, the subtotal. And then finally, we have a row for the total and a checkout button and continue shopping button. Okay, so continue shopping button goes to the home page, which is right, and clear cart button has a form, but doesn't matter. Okay, so let's wire up the products. So if you go here, each product is in this li. So we need to wrap this in a for each statement. And let's see, we passed in the cart items. So we need to loop through cart items. Cart items as item. And let me close this and add the end for each. And inside each of them, for the image, let's output item image. For the alt text, let's use the name of the product, the name here as well, the price of the product, the quantity of the product, which will be available because we added those special attributes. And yeah, I think that should do the trick. Let's check it out. We don't have any product, so we call this item. Let me fix those. Okay. So now we have product added, but instead of this price, this needs to be the subtotal. So it will take into account the quantity, the number of times the user has added that particular product to the cart. And so now it says 39. Okay. So for this total, let's wire up the total as well. So this is where the total goes, and we have a variable for it. Remember, in the cart controller, we're passing in total, so you can just use that. Oh, so it's not item total, it's just total because it's a separate variable. Okay, so let's add another product and go to the cart. And now you can see the new one is added as well, and the total is right, and everything seems to be working. Now, another thing that I want to do is make sure when the user adds something to the product, they're not like brought back here, but instead they should go to the cart page, which would be a slightly better user experience. So let's implement that. So when they press this add cart button, this form is submitted, this store method is hit, and after that we redirect back. So we don't want to redirect back. Instead, we can redirect them to the road cart.index, which I think will be right. Yep, there we go. Okay, finally, let's also, I'm not gonna wire up the remove buttons. You can do that on your own. It's pretty simple. You just pass in the product ID and then take that out from the session array and then just refresh the page. But instead of doing that, let's just wire up this clear cart button, which will be simpler and take less time and will be easier to demonstrate. Okay. Delete cart controller class and destroy name cart.destroy. Okay, go to product, cart controller, public function, destroy, and in the destroy method, we can just say session put cart empty array. Basically, we will update the cart variable to an empty array and then redirect back. Okay, so if we refresh the page, You can see that we can clear the cart. Let's see. This doesn't work because, oh, of course we haven't wired it up yet. So let's go to the clear cart button. You can see it's a form, but we need to specify that we need to go to the route cart.destroy, and we need to specify that the method is delete. This is how we tell Laravel that basically we need to send a delete request and not a post request. And also we need to add the CSR field. So let's refresh the page, and when we press this clear cart button, it will empty the cart. Let's also remove everything if there are no cart items. So we go to the cart page, and we can essentially just do, I think, is not cart items is empty. And if it is empty, we can use a p tag class and set some margin on top and bottom. Can make it text empty and like center. Let's say no items added yet, or let's say no items in the cart yet. So let's refresh. Now it says no items in the cart yet, but if you go and add products, it will show up. If you add a product twice, it will show the quantity and show the appropriate total and the total grand total as well.